And here we are, folks. The New York Knicks versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. We will be looking at the Cavs, diving into our matchup against them, and then from the season before, and then our matchup against them for this season, and potentially the future, and see what happens. We see them 3 times this season. Typically, we see them 3 times. We'll take a look and try to get an understanding of who the Cavs are. So far, we've played them a total of 216 games in the regular season. And look at this 116-100. We have the head to head matchup against the team. This is cool. I don't know if this is the first time that we do get this, but 116-100. So it's going to take them a while to kind of get back into the swing of things. They have a nice little young core. So they're looking to kind of establish themselves, maybe make a little splash, a little bit more than that. And they could be a potential team that can upset. We'll look more into it as we talk. We have seen them in the playoffs, a total of 9 games. And interesting to see 78, 95, and 96. So the Knicks and the Cavs have not seen each other in the playoffs. So I don't think we've seen LeBron as a Cav in the playoffs either. Now let's take a look at the games that we played last season. December 29th at Cleveland, January 15th at Cleveland, and January 29th at Cleveland was at MSG. We won the first game, and we had a 4-game win streak against the Cavs up until that point. So the season before, where Julius was his first season as a Knick, we didn't have RJ. We managed to at least rattle off some wins against them, but they probably weren't that good. And since we kind of weren't that good either, it made sense. But typically last season was 2 games at home, 2 games on the road. And season before that was 3 games, 4 games, 4 games, 4 games. I guess because LeBron was on this team. Let's look before LeBron, 2002. Yeah, 3 games, 4 games, 4 games. Okay. So it varies. Very interesting. Okay. Now let's take a look at each game quickly to get an understanding of where we were. First game, December 29th at the Cleveland Cavaliers. Randle, 9 for 16, from the field, 6 of 10 for free throws, 11 assists, 12 rebounds, 28 points, a triple-double for my good sir Julius Randle. RJ Barrett had 12, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, but on 4 of 15 shooting. Wow. Julius Randle, 44 minutes against the Cavs. Insane. We had 4 players in double figures, but Reggie and Alfred Payton are gone. We shot 43% from the field, 56% from 3, and Julius Randle hit all 4 of his threes. RJ did not hit his threes. And also, this was about the time last season where RJ was still trying to find himself. I don't think that he may find himself a little bit sooner. This game, Garland Sexton, Andre Drummond was on this team, that's right. But he's gone now. He's in Philadelphia. But Garland Sexton, 6 of 17 on 40 minutes, 20 points, 4 assists. Yeah, he's more of a 2 than he is a 1. Andre Drummond had 17 rebounds and 18 points. Darius Garland, who is their point guard, 17 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. Nice. Good on him. Larry Nance is gone. They shot 36% from the field, 21% from 3, which is probably why they lost. We had a lot of people out. Let's look at the Knicks. Okay, woes continue in the third quarter for the Knicks. We got to clean ourselves up, man. 18 points in the third, but same for them. We really beat up on them in the first. They really tried to come back in the second. And then that was about it. We really stopped them. And we held them to under 25 points in 3 quarters. And under 20 points in 2 of them. Let's see if there's a trend. Okay, nothing too crazy in the third. I'm kind of okay with this. This was at Cleveland, January 15th. Cleveland won this game, 106-103. Julius Randle had 28 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 11 of 20 from the field, which is great. 4 of 5 first free throws, 2 of 4 from 3. RJ Barrett chipped in with 23 assists, 4 rebounds. And IQ, 9 of 17 from the field on 27 minutes, 3 of 7 from 3, 2 of 2, but 23 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. Not too bad. Not shabby at all. 87% free throw, 48% from the field, and 36% from 3, but we were 9 for 25. Those are not good numbers. And for them, Cedi Osman, 25. Okay, that was kind of... Oh, they had Damian Dotson. Nice, a good dot sighting. But a lot of people didn't play. Doesn't really matter too much about this game. We're just looking for any narrative. Although I'm surprised we lost this game with Julius Randle on this. Just Drummond went off. I get it. Sometimes he has those weird... He used to do it a lot more when he was in Detroit. But he does this. He does this, which is why I'm sometimes worried when the Knicks play Philly or any team that Andre Drummond is on. Because randomly, there's games where he'll just kill it. 20 points, 23 rebounds. And then there's games where he'll have 17 rebounds and 9 points. You know, these things sort of happen. With his type of play and the type of player that he is, it's understandable because that position and who he is as a player can only go so far in today's league. I'm surprised we lost this game. Let's move on to the third one. This time, we made sure we got redemption at home, 102-81. So those were one of those games that I think the Knicks circled, and they said we should not have lost that game, but we did. But we came out a little flat in the first, 19 points, and then we piled on in the second, held them to 16. Third quarter, 25 points. So if you look at it, we really took... But we also let them score a lot in the fourth, which I think 26 points. If this is the score, then they probably had their bench players who were just trying to make up shots, or we put in our bench when their starters were still in, or something like that, where they were just trying to put up points. IQ had 25. Darius Garland had 24 points, 9 of 17. Garland Sexton had 17 points, 5 assists, 1 rebound. I wonder what that two-headed duo, Sexton-Garland, is going to look like. Jarrett Allen, I think he was just traded at this point, if I'm not mistaken. 15 points. He's cool, man. Him and the Mitch matchup will be awesome. Jarrett Allen and Mitchell Robinson. That'll be really cool to see. 15 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists from Jarrett Allen, 5 of 8 shooting. Very high percentage shots. He's, I think, 74% or something like that. Jarrett Allen, good footwork too. I like what I see with his footwork. I think he almost like a ballerina inside of the paint. Good footwork, gets himself good. The only thing is Mitchell Robinson is stronger than him. But I think, I think Jarrett Allen is faster than Mitchell Robinson when it comes to man-to-man. So we'll see what happens with that matchup. The Knicks, RJ scored 24, not bad. So we'll try to find a narrative and see what happens. 24 points, 2 assists, 4 rebounds, 8 of 19 from the field. Julius Randle, 16, 8, and 6. So he was the superstar while he was the contributing superstar in this game, which I thought was very important. You notice that with Julius Randle? Whenever there's a game that they lose that they should have won, Randle comes back and he says, you know what? I'm just going to do everything else to make sure everybody else that gets taken care of. You ever notice that Julius Randle does that? I think that's really cool. I just hope it comes from... I mean, naturally, my first thing would be I'd like for less of that to happen in the sense that we don't want losses and then for him to have to come back and do that. We'd rather have wins, Austin Rivers was on this team. That's my little marker sometimes I notice. And where were we when we were against them in our record? December 20. Okay, so December and January. Let's look at Cleveland, at New York. They were 3-1. They kind of started a little hot. Same thing as last season, just like this season. Started a little hot and then started to peter off. I wonder if history will repeat itself. So there were 2 games at home, and then they had a big road stretch here at Indiana, at Atlanta, at Orlando twice. So they stayed in Orlando, then to Memphis, then up to Milwaukee, and then they were home. And while they were home, they won. They beat us, and they lost, and then they beat us and won 3 games in a row. And then they played the Lakers and lost. They played Detroit and won, and then they lost to the Knicks and then the Wolves, and then they beat the Wolves. And then just a 10-game losing streak after that. So really, the second game is when they had some sort of... Game 1, they were riding a high. Game 2 against us, they lost 3 in a row, but that set up a 3-game win streak, which put them which eventually got them to over 500 for about 2 days. And then it just went downhill after that. When they beat Detroit, lost 2 games, they beat Detroit, then they got beat by us. Then they lost a close one to Minnesota. Then they tried to get back at Minnesota, and then Clippers, Bucks, Suns, Nuggets, Trailblazers, Clippers, Golden State. Even though you still have Steph though, anything's possible. And then, man, they had a tough stretch. Where were the Knicks at this time? Cleveland, we were 2-2. We had lost 2 and then won 2. Then we went on a 3-game win streak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-game losing streak, 3-game win streak. So we lost to Cleveland the second game, but that's because I remember losing to Oklahoma City, that January game. Then we had Denver, Charlotte, Brooklyn, and they really beat up on us. We scored 89 points, 88 points. And then Brooklyn, we tried to give it to them. And Cleveland, we tried to give it to them as well. And then we made a statement with Boston. And then what happened? 2 games, 3 games. And then Cleveland helped us until we kind of, it was up and down. So both teams were pretty up and down last season at the times that they were playing each other. Which makes me wonder about the Cavs this season, since they have a much better squad. So now that we're done looking at the past, let us look at the team currently as it's set up. Since we have the luxury of being in the season at the moment. 3 of 3. Started a little hot. Got themselves 500 in a good division that you're going to have to fight. And for the Cavs, a lot of people would say that they are probably the 3rd or 4th best team in the division. They are definitely better than Detroit. I will say that. And I'm very surprised at the Indiana Pacers at being 1-5, especially having the players that they have, and they do have a good coach. So this team is pretty kind of surprising people, which I think is pretty nice. Let's look at their stats, see what they're scoring for this season. Sexton is their best guy. Yeah, because they switched him to the 2 guard. So now he's doing a little bit better. If you notice, Rubio and Garland are switching off between assists, and they're the best. They are the best playmakers. They're the best players to pass the ball. 9 assists for Darius Garland in his 2nd year. 14 points, 9 assists, and 2 rebounds, which is pretty good. Their rookie this season, Evan Mobley. They have good little pieces, man. They have good pieces that can really move. They are, I would say, like a poor man's version. Who would it be? Let's see if I can try to find someone while I think about it. But they are a poor man's version of a team. Maybe even the poor man's version of the Knicks, right? To some degree. But Sexton's their main guy, 30 points. Evan Mobley, their rookie. So far, so good. He's doing pretty decent. 6 rebounds. 6 defensive rebounds. 8 rebounds. 8.2 rebounds, 2 assists. They're going to pass the ball. They look like they're going to pass the ball. They still have Kevin Love. And that means something. The only thing is they don't have much veteran leadership. Right now, all you seem to have is, I think you have Ed Davis, who is funny because the Knicks turned Ed Davis into 2 draft picks, 2 second-round picks. They do have Taco Fall, which is cool, but people aren't playing Taco Fall for some reason. They do have a D Wade on this team, which I think is hilarious. Larry Markkinen joined this team. They do have Jared Allen, Ricky Rubio, Evan Mobley. I want to see what their depth is, because I think I have an idea. Yeah, Darius Garland is starting at the point, Sexton at the 2, Markkanen at the 3. He's pretty tall. Wow, they have a tall 3-4-5. They're Larry Markkanen, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. That is a very tall lineup. And Kevin Love is coming off the bench. Ricky Rubio, Kevin Love, Cedi Osman, Isaac Okoro, who is hurt somehow. Kevin Love and Evan Mobley. So Mobley and then Markkanen. You know what though? They are pretty thin at the power forward position. If you look at Denzel Washington, he's a shooting guard, small forward. So I'm interesting. Their bench they've got a pretty good bench. It's a decent bench. Ricky Rubio, Kevin Love, Evan Mobley, when they're probably using. It's okay. It's nice. Their main squad is their starters. That's who they're looking for. And it's an interesting team. It's a very, very interesting team because who knows what can happen. These guys are like the Cinderella team. They can upset the Brooklyn Nets one day. Well, they did that last season, right? I think twice too. They have a fighting spirit. They have a fighter spirit. They have a can-do attitude, which I think is nice. And that coaching staff is really doing their best so far to get stuff out of them. He's really, really looking to get them ready and prepared because they're young and they're willing to learn. The only thing is they lack veteran leadership, and I don't know how that's going to affect them come February, March, or late January when the grind is now the luster has worn off and you've traveled so much and this, that, and the third, and you're out of hotels and in hotels, and you're in Detroit one day and then you have to go to Miami maybe even the next day, and then you got to go back to Milwaukee 2 days later, stuff like that. It's weird. It's very, very, very weird. I live in a country rather that has all the seasons. Jared Allen, 9 rebounds. Ricky Rubio. But see, here's the thing. Ricky Rubio has 7.2 assists. But then why does Darius Garland say 9? That's very weird. Steals, Ricky Rubio, blocks. I want to see quickly what they are home, because this will be important when we see them November 7th, January 24th, and April 2nd. Oh, so we don't see them for November, January, and then after. But I want to see how they are. We have 2 home games and 1 away. So at home, we almost got 2 guys averaging 20 points a game. They somewhat evenly, they kind of about the same as the Knicks in this case. I want to see them away somewhat less. Yeah, so they're a better home team than they are on the road, which would be really cool. And if you look at the schedule, November 7th, home, January 24th, away. We could possibly go 2-1 against this team. And April 2nd, they'll be, who knows, they may not even be fighting. So that might even be a wash game sometimes, or a trap game. So these two games will be important for the first half of the season. And this game, I don't know what the narrative could be. And let's see, but they do get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have the potential to get 7 players in double digits on the road. And when they're home, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. What happens when they're at home versus on the road? Very interesting. Let's look at the Knicks. I want to see their stats, and I want to see, they're 4-1 right now. How are they home versus on the road? Yeah, see, that's the thing. Randle at home is not bad at all. Fournier at home is almost averaging 20 points. We get a lot of energy from our crowd, which is really nice. Which is really, really good. And we have 2 bona fide rebounders. The only thing is, our assist numbers could be a little bit better, and that's why we're hoping for Kemba Walker to kind of come in and get that 3.7 to like a 5.7, please, my good sir. Let's see, on the road, Julius Randle 17, Kemba 16. Kemba's nice. 16. Yeah, but see, it's the Julius Randle show. That's why I'm a little worried. Because if you look at from what I'm seeing from this Cleveland Cavaliers team, they move very well off the ball. They're moving pretty nice so far off the ball. And they started the same way last season. They started on a somewhat of a high note, 3-0, I think. And everyone was like, "Oh, we're not going to panic. We're 3-0, this, that, and third." And then they kind of just petered off. But they run these pretty cool plays where they get the guys, they're a fast team. They tire their opponents. That's what I noticed about the Cavaliers. They really tire their opponents out. And that's not a joke. That's not a joke because you have to run against this team. And they're going to shoot. They're going to set picks. They're going to drive. They really take the time to move around. And they're finding open men at the 3 for the... so what they do is they set picks and they move off the picks really well. So they sag off. They lag off sometimes. And they're finding their placement, which means to me that their players are buying into their system and the scheme. And the scheme seems to work because they beat 3 really good teams in a row so far. Or at least their scheme is competent enough to where some teams haven't been able to adjust. Now, after you start watching film and stuff like that and you notice things, we'll see what happens after. But I think the Knicks are a lot stronger defensively. I think for this Cavs team, their strength is their youth and the fact that they can run. And what they do on defense is they kind of sag off, come in, sag off, double team, hound, get the ball. They're really looking for steals. They're looking to kind of like strip it, get it, go on fast breaks, or get it so that they get set into their half court play, and then they start like little lobs here, passes, they moving around, they cut their movement off the ball. It's really interesting to watch, which is why I think players who can give each other the ball, their biggest problems would probably be chemistry issues if they had any. Once you take the nail off the railroad track, if that thing kind of falls off, then it becomes an issue with the Cavaliers. Their lack of veteran leadership, knowing placements and where to go. Also, defensively getting grinded down. I think this is where the Cavs will probably get hurt the most, because once teams start to figure them out, they'll get really burnt out because it's almost like they're always having to run on defense, going back on defense. Because they're looking to kind of like, strip, run, go, get it, 3, pick, come. That stuff is great in the beginning of the season when it's new and it's flashy. But when people start to get you and understand you, they're going to stop you. And I think that's why the Knicks have a better opportunity against this team, even though they have Evan Mobley, even though they have this great trio guard tandem of Garland Sexton, Ricky Rubio, and Garland. That's fantastic. And Denzel Valentine is also there too. But for the most part, it's those three guards. And they have Jared Allen, Kevin Love, Lauri Markkanen, Evan Mobley. They have 5 to 6 players who you can kind of count on. But the Knicks have 5 players that you could potentially count on that are starting. And then we have maybe 2 players that we could count on, 2-3 players on the bench that we can count on in some way, shape, or form. So I think our bench adds a bit more, and our starters, Randle's strong. Randle's just really good. And Randle is a legit 22, 23 point per game scorer now. Now, I just want to quickly see. So we're a better home team than we are away, which is understandable because it is what it is. Let's look at the games for next season and see where they are. November 7th, January 24th, April 2nd. Where will we be at these times? November 7th, which is coming up fairly soon, we will be home versus the Cavs after we play the Bucks and the Pacers. And then we have a game right after against the 76ers and then the Bucks again. But we won't have to travel too far. Because, yeah, we'll be coming from Milwaukee, but then we're home. We go to Philly, but that's still close. That's less than 2 hours travel. And then back home to Milwaukee, and then down to Charlotte, and then home for 3 games. So I like this first bit. I'm a little worried with this because I don't want to get grinded out by I don't want us to like lose to the Pacers, for example, and then magically lose to the Pacers and lose to the Bucks, and then go up to the Cavaliers. Pardon me, have the Cavaliers come to us, and then it'd be an issue. Let's take a look at the January game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll be away. We'll be home for 1, 2, 3, 4 games. I think the Soda game we can beat them. We can beat the 17th game is the Martin Luther MLK Day game. Then we're home for 4 games at Cleveland. It's a back-to-back too, so right after I could probably see Cleveland taking the second game. I can see that. And then April 2nd, we'll be home. I think we could take games 1 and 3. Let's see what they have. So far, they're 3-3, 3-game win streak. But if you look at last season, let's take a look at last season. They won their first 3 games. 2-1, 2-1, 3-3, 2-1, 2-1, stretch 4-4, 1 loss, 1 loss, 1 loss. See, this becomes a problem. They're doing something very similar to that now. But they're still trying to find themselves, still trying to learn themselves. The season is young. So this game, they're away a lot. I think they might eventually get tired, which is why I think we take the first game. Then they have a chance to really beat up on the Wizards, the Pistons, and the Celtics twice before they go on a huge stretch. Yeah, but that won't really affect the Knicks too much because we see them in January. Then that's their problem to kind of deal with. The first game I could probably see us taking. I could see them sleeping on the Raptors. I could see them getting only the Raptors as a win and losing to the Suns. Maybe they could beat the Hornets. Maybe they could beat the Blazers. If we can beat them, that'll be cool, although they might be upset. But then they get the Wizards, Pistons. Okay. And let me go to the January game. They are away. Oklahoma. They're home. They're away against the Bulls. Nets, Bulls. They have a little palate cleanser, quote unquote. Knicks, Bucks. I could see them winning game 2. The Cavs. I could see them winning game 2 for some reason. And I think for this game at Dallas, and I think we could win games 1 and 3, and they can win 2. So I would say a 2-1 series matchup. And now what I just quickly want to do before we wrap things up is just talk a little bit about their play style. They have an interesting play style. That team is really getting the most out of that coaching staff is getting the most out of their players, and they're very headstrong. They grind to they're fast and they're quick and they're flashy. They're nice, they're very quick. They're a very quick team. The thing about those quick teams when they meet up against a defensive presence, it's going to be hard. So we're to take away they might even be like a lesser version of the whatchamacallit, of the Bulls, a lesser version of the. Let me go back to their home, and so this way we can take a look at their standings and stuff like that. they're they're an interesting version of what Chicago is, right? Chicago's got four good players: a point guard, a shooting guard, a small forward, a power forward, center rather. Vucevic is a center, but they have guys that can really play. They have Sexton, they have Garland, they have Jared Allen, they have Evan Mobley, Lauri Markkanen. They drafted a guy, they brought a guy in from a trade. They got for Jared Allen, and then they got Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen, who knows what he's gonna be? I'm not sure. I think he's good. I think he's okay. He really wanted to leave Chicago, which I thought was interesting because I guess maybe he wasn't really playing with that players. Like I think it was playing with Chris Dunn or something like that, and the team wasn't really going anywhere. So he left, got to Cleveland, cold weather for even colder weather. But he's still playing. This is a nice small team. It's in a small market. This team has the potential. If we look at the standings, this team has the potential. The Cavs right now are sitting at play-in right now. The last play-in. And Brooklyn Nets, Celtics, they may figure this thing out. The Cavs, what would be good if the Knicks beat them and then they beat up on the other teams, because the Cavs could potentially beat Toronto. They could randomly beat Atlanta, I think, because they beat them before. The Bucks, maybe not. Maybe the Hornets, maybe the Wizards. Wizards are 4-1. That's an interesting squad. I think the Heat, they could lose to. Cleveland could lose to just about anybody. Cleveland could easily lose. But also, don't be surprised if they find new ways to win, or if they lose, they don't lose by much. I think that's where their progress is going to be, because you can see what they're doing. You can see their plays. Basically, mid-range, try their best to get off the pick and roll style. On defense, it's hound the guys, get steals, and get as quickly back to get your defense set up so that you can contest, get the ball, get back on offense for either a fast break, a quality shot, or set up and get into a play really quick where everybody's kind of constantly moving, or at least 3 or 4 players are constantly moving. So that ball is hot. The thing is, I wonder how they're going to be when they start fouling. When Julius Randle starts getting his calls and he's slowing the game down. When this team starts to slow the game down. Because guess what? The Knicks are going to slow you down. And when they get fouled, they're going to huddle up together, say good job, get to the free throw line, and make their free throws. Or at least try to make their free throws. And Julius Randle is a star now. Julius Randle will get his calls. And the refs will make sure that if anybody fouls a player like Julius Randle, which I think Julius Randle has more respect in the NBA from a ref call perspective than someone like Sabonis does, because his team is now good a second season, whereas Sabonis on the Pacers has regressed. His team has regressed. So now I don't know anything about any insider stuff or if it's rigged. I'm just saying what I think and I feel. And it's a quality team. It's a strong team, this Knicks team. But also this Cleveland Cavaliers team is not equally as strong, but they have the ability to run up scores. They can also get cold, and because they lack a sense of leadership in some way, and they don't really have a star player. They don't have a star player. I don't think so. They have great players. They have good B players. Fantastic B players. Really lovely B players. Ricky Rubio's nice. Ricky Rubio's really nice. I think he can ball. Darius Garland can ball too. Evan Mobley is really, really good. But what's going to happen if they're trying to get on a run? Or what happens if they get on an 11-0 run or a 14-0 run, and then that dissipates down to 2 or 3, and then they lose the lead? Stuff like that you have to consider. But otherwise, a pretty decent team. They do turn the ball over, though. So look for that. We can try to get them to foul us. That's the thing, because this team's going to shoot. But I would say 2-1. That's my guess. All right, guys, this was a dive into the Cavs. Hopefully, hopefully we'll see what's going on. I'm thinking 2 wins, 1 loss. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below.